What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. It is now day 20 since PlayStation announced to be moving on from physical media starting January 2028, and things have quickly spiraled out of control online to where it is just like blind fire all over the place. If Sony tweets about something or retweets it, it's now really affecting even some of the smaller games out there, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo with this Ocarina of Time remake listing that went up and confused the entire internet, a lot of excitement, and then, of course, a lot of disappointment with it. And we have a ton of Fallout stuff to talk about, a little bit of Elder Scrolls, but Bethesda went absolutely crazy, giving Fallout fans all kinds of new hope heading into, at this point, probably the next decade or so, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Small Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Also, we are on Spotify, video and audio, working to build up the followers there. So if you want to check it out, you can. It's linked down below in the description. Give it a like, follow, whatever else happens over there. But we're going to start today with God of War, specifically the Amazon Prime TV series that is currently in development or production. There is a pretty significant update, and one that shocked everyone, because it appears Ryan Hurst, who is playing Kratos, is being recast. Now, this we can see was over on Deadline, who says Hurst tore a bicep while doing a stunt on the show. This is first reported by TMZ, and according to sources, he has since undergone surgery and is now recovering. This apparently happened at the end of June, and God of War was just paused production immediately following the incident, and it remains on hiatus. Sadly, though, for a typical recovery on something like that, 4 to 6 months, and then you would still want to probably do some lifting and get back into, we'll say, Kratos shape, as he spent a lot of time doing that just to be able to approach this role in the first place. They would have probably been sometime into 2027 to continue filming, and they made the decision to, unfortunately, recast and move on. So we don't know who has been, I guess, casted now as Kratos. So again, unfortunate turn of events here for Ryan Hurst, and I guess we'll wait for more information and update as to what's going on then with Kratos and the series. Also, there was an interesting patent that showed up from Sony. It was published a few days ago, but it was really filed at the end of December 2024. However, it describes a controller, and I think the reason it got a lot of headlines, with a screen. And this is something that people have felt like would be the next evolution for Sony, and kind of just the callback then to the Dreamcast with the VMU. They haven't done it just yet. However, the controller also described all kinds of modular parts, sticks, buttons, the whole thing to go along with that screen. And I kind of looked at it and thought, okay, maybe this is an accessibility controller they're playing around with, or it could have been maybe a successor to the DualShock Edge controller, or DualSense Edge controller. Also very possible, as it just builds on the modularity then of those two thumbsticks. I don't necessarily think this is the PlayStation 6 controller, because when you ship a system with a controller, you're probably looking to have it be at least somewhat within reason for cost. This seems like a controller that would be more in the premium tier and probably cost similar to what the Edge controller does now. So interesting thing to see. It's a patent. Doesn't necessarily mean it comes to fruition, but a screen on the next PlayStation controller would be quite interesting to see how it's used. Oh, do you remember how a little while ago we talked about how in Europe, Nintendo would have to have replaceable batteries for their systems going forward, as well as accessories? The Joy-Con for the Switch 1 got an entire guide that was posted. It's 13 steps, 13 easy steps, right? Well, Nintendo did change the annoying tri-wing screws to Phillips heads. That's a good start, but it's still the same process, actually. Now, though, they at least provide the battery replacement along with the adhesive strips and a guide. It's still annoying, but the battery is like the first thing that comes out, and again, a 13 step-by-step guide that they have. It's at least something. I'm more curious, though, about the revision of the Switch 2 and then the Joy-Con 2 controllers, because I think the Switch 1, not an afterthought, but definitely not their big focus right now. So the new system, I want to see if they do something a bit more substantial, especially since, do they want to have like a 43-step process to getting into the Switch 2 and changing out the battery? I don't think so. I don't think that one will work necessarily with the stipulations, so I actually think there will be a battery door, at least on that one, and that is what we're waiting to see come out of some of these regulatory measures that have been put in place. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with nearly 3 weeks of Sony kind of just ignoring the elephant in the room, despite constant barrages of comments on everything they put on social media. Not only is it just over on places like Twitter, but it seems to be showing up on YouTube and other platforms. YouTube especially now is getting a lot of comments on any trailers from partners or first party that Sony posts. Wolverine being obviously a high profile first party game, and you look in the comments and it's everything about no disc, no buy, everything about them moving on to physical media. Hey, this looks pretty physical, stuff like that. Well, now, again, it's spilling over into even smaller games. I'm mostly thinking about indie titles, not GTA 6 that just decided, hey, we don't feel like producing and shipping a disc. It's just code in a box. That's a little different from, here's like this small $15 to $20 indie game that's just trying to make it, like get out there. And it's like 2 or 3 people making the thing, right? Well, we can see this one. Now, this was over on VGC, who was reporting on this specific game. New Zealand studio Eat Pants Games has released Tito, 3D platformer about a blob and a bunny who have to stop a shadowy corruption from spreading across the world. Let's see, I think a little trailer that's out there. They put it up on their social media account. Also, Sony put it on their YouTube account just to kind of advertise it a bit. It looks like a fun little game there. But it went about how you expected with the current situation around Sony. And they actually posted over on their social media account for Tito. They say, OMG, our game just launched and PlayStation posted our launch trailer. 400 comments. I wonder what people think of our... Oh no, it is people just posting all kinds of stuff again about the physical disc situation. We want physical. We need the disc. No disc, no buy. And it's just a digital game. I mean, they're not going to be making, at least right away, anything physical because it costs money, obviously. So they say here, we've literally had people tell us to cancel our digital release and do physical only. I don't know if people realize that we are just 2 people and this is our first game. We'd love to do physical and we support physical ownership, but our game kind of has to do well digitally first. And I think that's important to note. Again, a lot of these smaller indie developers who are trying to use the reach of PlayStation right now just to advertise their game, whether it's through paid promotion or Sony might just go, we will retweet that. Why not? At this time, that's almost like the mark of death for some of these games because you're just going to get hit with a ton of comments not about the game. And I don't know if that's necessarily bad for some of these indie games just trying to get any kind of publicity they can. And I don't know how many people are actually out there like, I can't believe this $15 game about a bunny and an elephant does not have a physical disc. It's basically GTA 6. I don't think anyone's actually like that, but it still is the situation right now with Sony that they've put themselves in since that announcement. It's actually not fun to advertise with Sony right now. And I think that is now the strategy that you see from, a collective group of people online who are going around and just having a barrage on every single announcement. It's like, we're going to make it so people don't want to advertise with Sony. And that can become pretty difficult. I will say this, that can make things very difficult in terms of relationships between Sony and Ubisoft, EA, or any of these other big AAA companies that don't necessarily need Sony to push stuff out there. Again, indie games, little different. They're trying to get any publicity they can. But if you're releasing the next Assassin's Creed, it's like, it helps, but do we need to be on PlayStation's timeline where they're just getting crushed constantly? This was another one that was actually retweeted by Sony, Dusk Fade. Okay, they say it's available now to pre-order on PS5. Okay, and they responded saying, hey everybody, we love physical games too. We'd love to make box editions of Dusk Fade a reality, but as a smaller indie team, we need to see how our digital launch goes first, see if it's feasible for us. That's the thing. I think there are many just indie studios, smaller studios that would love, they aspire to have their game put on a disc or on a cartridge. That is actually something they want to do, not necessarily big publishers who go, we've done plenty of physical releases. It's not a huge deal to us anymore. No, indie developers want to go in the opposite direction of some of these larger AAA companies. It's just, they have to get the money for digital or see how it goes, and then maybe partner with a company that can help them produce the disc, get it on store shelves, and for them, probably order it, they want a copy just so they can put it up on their shelf. So again, I get the movement. I see that people are trying to push Sony into this situation where it's kind of toxic just to advertise with them. But just understand these smaller indie developers, I'm sure many of them actually agree with the movement themselves. They're just trying to get their game out there in front of people to make some money, and then probably end up going off and creating their own physical copy. Next up, let's talk about Bethesda, because there is a lot to like here, especially if you're a Fallout fan, and a little bit of hope as well for Elder Scrolls fans. You've been waiting a long time for Elder Scrolls 6. I really do think that's going to be a 10+ year thing from when they first announced it with that trailer, that very brief flyover trailer, to it coming out or even just being revealed again. So this was a massive post over on their social media account on Twitter where they went line by line just going over everything they could, which went from Creation Engine 3 being something that they're currently working on for future games, as well as a ton of Fallout stuff. Even some past games maybe making a return here. So we'll start at the top, and that's with actually Starfield. Now, Starfield will be continuing. That seemed to surprise some people because it didn't go crazy. It didn't light the world on fire necessarily for them. But here's the thing when it comes to a lot of Bethesda's games, they are kind of evergreen sellers, as in just over time, they will rack up sales and you'll find yourself at 20 million, 30 million sold, right? So I think something like Starfield, it's different enough from a lot of their other games that they will continue at least just adding on to it. Starborn content is next year, so Starfield fans, you got something to look forward to there. Elder Scrolls 6, it is the primary focus. It is a thing. Still, it's hard to say when it'll come out. I think we're 2 years off from this one, it actually releasing. So if I had to guess, I think it's going to be that fall holiday time, 2028. It's been in development for a while. Now it's in full production. It is their focus. They are going all out on this thing. So if I had to take a guess, 2 years off, maybe 3. We'll see. But get this, Fallout 5 is officially in pre-production. And it's not shocking that they would go that route. To me, it's just shocking that it's taken this long to go this route. And so that's going to be after Elder Scrolls 6. So if 2028 Elder Scrolls 6, I mean, you might be looking at 2034 or 2035 on Fallout 5. It's going to be a bit. But if you want Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, there are remasters in development. We had already heard about these. This is just kind of confirmation that it is indeed a thing. And I kind of wonder if Fallout 3 is going to shadow drop next year. I'll come back to that one in a moment, why I think that is. And then Fallout New Vegas. These are two games that are just classic titles, right? I mean, going all the way back to the kind of early days of the 360, when Fallout 3 came out, it was a game changer for the entire franchise. It was this first person kind of post-apocalyptic adventure style game, and it was so different from everything else around it. And New Vegas, again, really, really cool. People look at that as their favorite Fallout game, and it wasn't even made by Bethesda. So that's it's good to see those getting the remasters, that those previous reports are indeed true. Obsidian, though, is working on a new Fallout project. Okay, so it's important to note, Fallout 5 is different from what Obsidian is working on. They are just working on a brand new title. And so then, if you stack all of this up, it kind of feels like the strategy is to have almost yearly, bi-yearly Fallout releases. I mean, if you have, okay, so Fallout 76 is getting a Raven Rock expansion. All right, that's coming up. And so if you have that, that's a prequel to Fallout 3. Then you go into Fallout 3 Remastered. Then you go into maybe New Vegas, 12 to 16 months or 18 months later, something like that. Then maybe you get to the point where that Obsidian game is kind of being talked about, and that's 2 years later. And so you kind of see what I mean. They can get to a position where there's a pretty frequent release cadence for Fallout games. And why wouldn't you? It's incredibly popular. I mean, Fallout Shelter's 250 million downloads, and I know it's a free-to-play game it's kind of across the board on multiple different platforms, including mobile. But it is a way in for people to at least check out the franchise in a different way, but at least get acclimated a bit to what it's all about. And that then also spills over into the Fallout Shelter TV project that's in development. The Fallout TV show continues. Season 3 production is underway, which that's been a very successful show for them so far. And while there's no Fallout Day this year, they are planning something big for Fallout Day 2027. That's the 30th anniversary. I mean, I think they're going to have a pretty big blowout of all kinds of Fallout stuff. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Fallout 3 they just shadow dropped the thing. Or at least they showed it and had a release date that's not that far off in the distance. Seems like a great way to get people very, very excited for everything Fallout again. Bringing, again, many people's favorite Fallout game, one that really changed things when it released back during the 360 day. But new coat of paint, some quality of life stuff. It is backwards compatible and has some enhancements on, say, the Xbox Series, but it's still kind of crunchy. So this would be really cool to see what they can do with especially some of the more recent remasters that they're doing right now. And I do think Fallout 3 Remastered and Fallout New Vegas Remastered, those would make sense to put on multiple different platforms. I'm still curious where they'll fall on some of the larger projects like Obsidian or like Fallout 5 when it comes to exclusivity, since Microsoft's like beating that drum right now for many of their projects. But I think the remasters would make sense to just kind of cast a wide net, bring people on board with Fallout, and then make them, buy an Xbox or Helix or I guess get a PC with Windows on it. We'll see with Steam, but at least there to be able to play those future games. But a lot of really cool stuff here for Fallout fans. It looks bright right now for this franchise, but next up we got to get Elder Scrolls 6 out the door. So I'm really hoping that maybe next year they actually have something to show us about that game so they can get that push going. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ocarina of Time Remake, Ocarina of Time Reimagining, Reborn. We're still trying to figure out basically everything about this game, and so far a lot of the info's come from Google listings, because it seems like that's at least worked from Nintendo's standpoint with their website having some information in there, kind of being saying it's like a high quality, high end sort of reimagining of the game. But with that being fixed or erased, there's another listing that popped up from GameStop, which is the company where the CEO who recently said that games are kind of irrelevant to them, physical games are irrelevant to them. So anyway, the website, you can see, this is a screen capture, and this was posted up, I saw this over on Go Nintendo, where it had the release date of August 4th. That's soon. It's not too far off right now. Well, people were looking at this like, hold on, that's the pre-order stuff, because they have a pre-order bonus up there. And then wait a minute, the pricing like $60 on this thing. What is going on? Well, Nate did come in and point out that for some reason, GameStop's listing and their information, the metadata that was pulled for Google, was actually pulled from Beast of Reincarnation. That is coming out August 4th. It's not on the Switch, but it's Game Freak's title. And it seems like there was some kind of cross, like wires got crossed, bit of a cross up there for GameStop when you search for it on Google, and it seems like it's been fixed since then. The only thing I really gathered from this is that, man, people are really excited to get more information around Ocarina of Time Remake, and we're 20 days into July, and I think it's coming out in November, so we are less than 4 months away from this game, and we really don't have much of any information about it. It does help that we have previous work to go on that they're building off of, releasing on the N64, but I think we're all ready to see more about this, and I think we're all ready to see more about just the anniversary for Zelda, and I think that's coming up in a direct, probably not too far off. Like, it seems maybe we'll get into August, and Nintendo will have that all planned out, and then we'll roll along into what should be a full calendar year going into 2027, all kinds of Zelda stuff, of course, with the big blowout for the movie, and I'm sure not only Ocarina of Time, but maybe a couple of other gaming projects to look forward to. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played Fallout 3 before? Okay, yeah, 57%, look at that. Say yes. 43% say no. Man, a lot of people in the comments were like, I remember those were the good days. The world was in front of us, and everything seemed so happy. And people were saying it's my first Fallout game back in, 08, and continued along with New Vegas, and eventually Fallout 4, which they didn't like as much. But people were just really reminiscing of the old days, and it's so funny to think about that with the 360, that it was that long ago, right? I mean, 2008, it's 18 years ago. It's crazy to think about it that way, but it is true, and yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun to have that game get the full remaster treatment, and of course, performance issues aside, I mean, we see what happens just in general with Creation Engine and just these different games coming out of Bethesda. But part of the charm, I feel like, is that jank. So I kind of hope it is there, to where the game kind of does weird stuff and breaks occasionally. That's just kind of the Bethesda and the Fallout experience. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Akazi, who says, what's really frustrating about the Crunchyroll issue, dropping shows off the streaming, is that they never give a heads up. It always just happens. Yeah, that's the thing that gaming kind of does right with these subscription services. They'll tell you that games are leaving, even if it's like a list of 12 of them or something, they'll tell you like a week or two in advance. So, okay, I want to check this game out to see if I like it. Because you're probably not going to, most people won't be finishing it in a week's time. but I can at least jump in for an hour or two and see what the deal is with this game that I've been putting off. But if it really does just disappear, like you wake up one day, you have an email and it's like, hey, this series got pulled, and that's it. It's actually gone as you're reading this email. That can be quite frustrating. So I really see these subscription services now more than anything like a Crunchyroll or anything where it really has a lot of TV series or movies. It's kind of for discovery. It's like, okay, let's check out this anime series that I've been hearing about. Let me watch the first couple of episodes. Great. Now let's see what it costs on Blu-ray. And I think that's one of the reasons why physical media, especially for Blu-rays or in like the movie or TV angle, are starting to go up. Like they ticked up a bit over the last couple of years. And I kind of think they're going to continue trending in that direction because people are just frankly tired of subscription services, not only stacking several of them on top of each other, but also not knowing how long a TV series or a movie is going to be there in the first place. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear more about just the entire situation with gaming right now. Prices going up, physical media on the way out, Nintendo just kind of hanging out in the corner by themselves doing their thing. I did an entire mini podcast with Matt Piscatella from the Circana group, and I'll leave that right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.